So Caitlin Clark is, let's be completely real, like when people are talking about these CBA negotiations and everyone's saying the most important players are the people that are on the committee, let's be completely real. The most important player in CBA negotiations is Caitlin Clark. The second most important player in CBA negotiations is not necessarily Caitlin Clark, or say obviously not Caitlin Clark, it's Angel Reese. The third most important player, Sabrina Ionescu. The fourth most important player, AJ Wilson. Fifth most important player, Paige Beckers. And maybe if you want to put Paige Beckers at third, fair enough. They are the most important.
She didn't dance around the issue. Caitlin Clark, the most influential figure tied to the WNBA's upcoming CBA talks, spoke about the 2026 season as if it were already locked in, not some uncertain outcome. And when another major voice from the league backed that confidence, the message became impossible to ignore. The WNBA is here to stay. This wasn't a hopeful soundbite or empty optimism from a superstar. It was deliberate, a calculated statement, and a clear counter to the growing whispers about a potential work stoppage. What she said carries real weight, and the ripple effects stretch far beyond one interview. For players, fans, and the long-term future of women's basketball, this moment matters. The league's most powerful stars are no longer waiting on behind-the-scenes negotiations to define what comes next. They're defining it themselves. And when voices this big speak with certainty, they shape reality more than any boardroom ever could. That confidence doesn't just reassure, it sets the direction forward.
Gosh. Caitlin Clark saying this, and obviously Angel Reese during the week was talking about her biggest goals, and she was talking about playing in the playoffs. So you've got the two most important players in the league, in league negotiations, talking as if it's a guarantee that it happens. They're talking as if it's a guarantee, and that's one of those things that I don't think people really are like taking into account, is that it really does matter when you've got these players talking like it's completely guaranteed. Talking like...
And she wasn't speaking in isolation. Angel Reese, a powerhouse in her own lane and widely viewed as the second most influential voice in these high-stakes talks, also laid out her vision without hesitation. She spoke directly about her long-term objectives, putting playoff success front and center in the years ahead. That detail matters more than it seems. When the two biggest needle movers in the league, the very stars who drive broadcast value and sponsorship money, talk about the future like it's already set in stone, it sends a loud and clear message. They're brushing aside the fear, calming the fan base, and signaling to executives and partners alike that the league isn't hitting pause anytime soon. This kind of alignment doesn't happen by chance. The confidence is intentional, the timing is deliberate, and the message couldn't be clearer. The WNBA is moving forward, full speed ahead.
Imagine your legacy being destroying the sport that you made a career on. Like if the WNBPA, like if the PA calls a strike and people are like, oh, 97% of the players like voted voted for a strike. No, they didn't. 97% of the players basically said they trust the CBA. They trust the CBA. Or say not trust CBA, they trust the PA. That if that they're okay to strike.
The weight behind what Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese said can't be downplayed. With CBA negotiations creating tension across the league, every comment from influential voices is dissected and debated. And when players of their stature, not executives or bargaining committees, speak about upcoming seasons as if they're guaranteed, it changes everything. That kind of confidence isn't accidental. Their relaxed certainty is a calculated signal meant to steady nerves and present the league as stable and secure. This goes far beyond casual conversation. It's a strategic effort to keep momentum intact and prevent rumors or doubt from slowing the WNBA's growth. They know exactly how much influence they hold, and right now, they're using that reach to protect the league's trajectory and help lock in its future.
Like voted for a strike. No, they didn't. 97% of the players basically said they trust the CBA. They trust the CBA. Or say not trust CBA, they trust the PA. That if that they're okay to strike if nothing happens. That they're okay with the strike as a last resort. And if nothing else, that vote is just in solidarity. Like, the reality is that even if it was 60%, it would make absolutely no difference. But the players also know that if half the league, if it ended up being 60% voting, that the league would just...
While the official CBA representatives play an essential role at the negotiating table, the real leverage doesn't always live in formal meetings. It lives with the league's biggest attractions, and Caitlin Clark exists far beyond the label of player. She's a movement, a market, a force that reshaped the sport's visibility. Even without sitting in negotiation rooms, her public remarks carry more influence than hours of closed-door discussions. When she speaks, it cuts straight to the heart of what fans, sponsors, and investors are worried about. The noise fades, and her message becomes the headline. Together, Clark and Angel Reese are doing something unprecedented, effectively validating the league's future from the hardwood instead of the executive suite. It's a shift in power, a modern blueprint where star influence outweighs committee procedure, signaling a new era in how sports leagues are shaped.
Necessarily, like, taking into account how important it is, the likes of a Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese talking as if it's a guarantee, how important that is. Because at the end of the day, these are players that Nike, Reebok, these big brands are kind of like... Nike are putting a lot of stock in Caitlin Clark. Like, there's a lot going into Caitlin Clark. I think this Team USA camp, and imagine if Team USA fuck about and don't pick Caitlin Clark. Nike on the spot would probably just drop them. The rumor is, again,
there's been a lot of confusion around the recent strike authorization vote, and much of it misses the point. When people saw that 97% figure, many assumed it meant players were ready to shut everything down and put the 2026 season in jeopardy. That interpretation couldn't be further from the truth. What that vote actually represented was unity. It was a strong, collective endorsement of the Players Association and a signal that the athletes are standing together. Authorizing a strike doesn't mean they want one. It means they're willing to use it only if negotiations fail and fairness isn't on the table. This wasn't about burning the league to the ground. It was about leverage, a calculated show of solidarity designed to strengthen their position, not sabotage the very league they've spent years helping grow.
Complete online rumor I'm seeing on Twitter. This doesn't mean anything, but the rumor is that the Caitlin Clark shoe is going to be revealed during a Super Bowl commercial. That is what the rumor is. That is going to be revealed during the Super Bowl, which is what, like, I'm just trying to think when it comes down to it. When is the Super Bowl? It's start of February. It's always going to be the start of February anyway. It was the 10th of February last year, I think. It was 10th of February. Either way, though, look, at the end of the day, this is a...
That level of unity isn't optional. It's critical. Even if a strike is unlikely, the possibility of one is the strongest leverage the players have to push for better pay and improved working conditions. Without a show of collective resolve, the Players Association would be negotiating from a position of weakness, unable to force meaningful change. The players understand the stakes. If they want to reach something as ambitious as a projected 6,700% increase in compensation, they have to move as one. There's no room for cracks or hesitation. This has never been about shutting the league down. It's about lifting it higher, making sure the athletes finally receive a fair share of the growth and success they've helped create.
March, they are all going to be a lead-in to what is going to be the biggest WNBA season ever, because the assumption is like that the season is going to happen. The Caitlin Clark is going to be healthy. The Paige Becker is going to be even better. The Age is going to continue her dominance. The Fee is going to be healthy coming into the season. That Angel Reese is going to have the most competent team around her that she's had in her career. And by the way, so many people were like, oh, and rival play means nothing. I was like, oh yeah, winning and losing means nothing. But I'm like, stats mean nothing. But I'm like,
beyond player influence, there's an even bigger force in the background. Nike. As one of the WNBA's most powerful stakeholders, their financial commitment and reach can't be ignored. Nike has placed a massive bet on Caitlin Clark, and any scenario involving a canceled season or a weakened league would hit them directly where it hurts. That investment alone acts as a stabilizer. Brands at that level don't allow uncertainty to derail the process product they've tied themselves to. Nike isn't simply cutting checks or slapping logos on jerseys. They're deeply invested in the league's success. With real money and global visibility on the line, Nike has every incentive to push for resolution, growth, and continuity. Their influence helps ensure the WNBA stays on track, expanding its reach and momentum rather than losing it.
That is really important because it's transferable. People are like, oh, but like Angel Reese killed it in Arrival. I'm like, outside the first 4 games of the season, Angel Reese played like an all WNBA team player. Like, do people not realize that? Angel Reese was unbelievable last season. There was a chunk in the middle of the season where she was averaging something like 17 points, 15 rebounds, and 6 assists. And the Chicago Sky, it was a 10-game spell, and the Chicago Sky were 5-5. And I understand it's a small sample size, but like, still, like it's one of those things where genuinely, like Angel was very, very good last year. But yeah,
the scale of Nike's involvement becomes even clearer when you consider one explosive and widely circulated rumor. Caitlin Clark's signature shoe is reportedly lined up for a Super Bowl commercial reveal. Let that sink in for a moment. The Super Bowl, that's not a routine ad buy. It's a statement, a multi-million-dollar declaration that Nike sees Clark not just as an athlete, but as a generational centerpiece tied directly to the WNBA's future. A move like that simply doesn't happen if there's any real uncertainty about the league's stability. Nike doesn't gamble blindly at that level. They're betting on Clark, and they're betting that the WNBA will remain the premier stage capable of amplifying her reach. That influence stretches even further into USA basketball territory. Imagine a scenario where decision makers somehow leave Caitlin Clark off an Olympic roster. According to league insiders and ongoing speculation, Nike would have little patience. For that, the suggestion is clear. Their backing would disappear overnight. That protective stance underscores Clark's unmatched market value. Nike's fortunes are deeply tied to her success, and they intend to maximize every opportunity in front of her. The result? Every major institution, from the WNBA to USA basketball, has a built-in incentive to ensure Clark remains front and center. Her prominence isn't just encouraged, it's essential. Now compare that reality with newer alternatives like the unrivaled league. Some players, including Natasha Cloud, have suggested they could play year-round outside the WNBA, but the numbers paint a far less optimistic picture. Many unrivaled games struggle to pull even 1,000 viewers. That contrast highlights something crucial. The WNBA isn't replaceable. Even when elite talent appears, the difference is stark. Paige Buckers does give Unrivaled a temporary boost when she's on the floor, but overall viewership still lags far behind. That gap proves an uncomfortable truth. Star power alone isn't enough. Even the best players need the right platform, and no platform currently compares to the WNBA. It offers visibility, endorsement potential, competitive legitimacy, and historical weight that newer leagues simply can't replicate. That's why talk of a mass exodus has always felt hollow. Players know where the real opportunity lives. The WNBA isn't just another option, it's the foundation. It's the cultural center of women's professional basketball. No other league offers the same blend of intensity, exposure, tradition, and global relevance. Players, agents, sponsors, and networks all understand this, which is why the league's continuity isn't optional. It's critical. That's also why the excitement surrounding the upcoming season is already reaching a fever pitch. The assumption across the league is that Caitlin Clark will return healthy. Paige Buchers is expected to come back even stronger. Aja Wilson shows no signs of slowing down, and Aaliyah Boston is projected to take another leap. Quicker, stronger, more dominant. That concentration of talent alone makes the idea of a league stoppage almost unthinkable. Momentum like this doesn't get paused lightly. Angel Reese adds even more fuel to that fire. After some early growing pains, she put together a remarkable stretch last season. Over a 10-game span, she averaged roughly 17 points, 15 rebounds, and 6 assists, helping the Chicago Sky to a 5-5 record. That run offered a glimpse of just how high her ceiling really is. With a stronger supporting cast, Reese is positioned to elevate her game even further. Her development is a major piece of the league's future, setting up rivalries, narratives, and must-watch moments that fans crave. And this brings us back to why Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are speaking the way they are. Their confident, forward-looking comments aren't accidental. They're performing an essential stabilizing role by talking about next season with certainty. They're calming fans, reassuring sponsors, and keeping investors focused on growth rather than fear. Panic helps no one, especially during CBA negotiations. Certainty creates space for solutions. There's also legacy at stake. No player wants to be remembered as part of a leadership group that oversaw the collapse of the very league that built their career. That reality matters. While strike authorization is a necessary tool, it's not an outcome anyone truly wants. Protecting and expanding the sport carries far more weight than winning a short-term standoff. The confidence projected by Clark and Reese isn't just fan service. It's a direct message to media partners and corporate backers. The WNBA is ascending, viewership is rising, interest is exploding. Any disruption would put that progress at risk. And with this much money, talent, and cultural relevance aligned, the conclusion becomes unavoidable. The stakes are far too high for the league not to move forward. Those reassurances do more than calm nerves. They protect confidence at the highest levels. Investors see stability. Broadcasters see long-term value, and that perception is essential for locking in future media deals, expanding the league's footprint, and continuing to push women's basketball onto a global stage. The WNBA's future depends on projecting forward motion without hesitation. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, the message becomes unmistakable. The public confidence shown by the league's biggest stars, combined with the financial realities behind the scenes, points to a quiet understanding. Despite the hard lines and public negotiating tactics, no major player, not the athletes, not the Players Association, not the league office, and certainly not major partners like Nike, can afford for this to fall apart. There is simply too much at stake. The WNBA is too valuable, too influential, and too stacked with elite talent to be paused or undermined. The momentum is already moving in one direction, and it's not slowing down. The collective desire to see the league succeed is stronger than any temporary friction at the negotiating table. That's why this moment feels different. The groundwork is being laid for what could become the most transformative era in league history, with its brightest stars openly affirming the future and powerhouse brands investing heavily behind the scenes. The WNBA is positioned for rapid, sustained growth. The CBA talks may be difficult, but they're a means to an end, a necessary step towards securing long-term stability and fairness. This isn't simply about preventing a strike. It's about building a league that's stronger, more equitable, and more visible than ever before, one capable of capturing global attention for years to come. So when Caitlin Clark speaks, people listen, and when she and Angel Reese talk about future seasons with certainty, it's more than optimism. It's a statement of intent. The WNBA isn't just returning in 2026, it's setting itself up for its most powerful stretch yet, financially, culturally, and competitively. The negotiations matter, but the commitment from the players who drive the league's true value is already clear. The WNBA isn't going anywhere. It's standing on the edge of something bigger, stronger, louder, and ready to fulfill the enormous promise of women's basketball's future.